Hello, I'm Dirk Damonte, Minister of Music and Worship Arts, and I'm really grateful to be part of these Lenten reflections that we're doing this season. As you can tell, I'm recording this on Ash Wednesday, hence the mark of the cross on my forehead. It's an important way to begin the season of Lent, but we'll be sharing this video at some point during the season, and know that I'll be walking alongside you during this season with these reflections and the reflections of my colleagues. The question that Jesus asked that I'm speaking about today is from Mark 8:12, where Jesus said, "Why does this generation ask for a sign?" Now the full verse 12 in Mark 8, says this: "With an impatient sigh, Jesus said, 'Why does this generation look for a sign? I assure you that no sign will be given to it.'" That phrase, "with an impatient sign," really caught my attention, because when we talk about Jesus, impatient isn't one of the words we use. We usually say Jesus was patient and kind and forgiving and compassionate and loving. And of course, he was all those things. But like all of us, Jesus also got impatient sometimes. And so I was wondering, what is it that makes Jesus impatient? What causes Jesus to be impatient? Well, it's important to understand what happened before this. Before this, in the previous chapter, Jesus healed a woman's daughter, a woman who wasn't an Israelite. And Jesus at first said he couldn't do that healing. And she begged him, and she used some pretty clever logic. And Jesus said to her, "Okay, good answer." And her daughter was healed. Shortly after that, he healed a deaf man. And when he did that, he implored everyone, "Don't tell anyone what you've seen." But of course, they did, and word got out. Right after that, there was a crowd of people there to hear Jesus, and he fed 4,000 people with just a few loaves and fish. Now, you might remember the 5,000 loaves and fishes. That was 2 chapters earlier in Mark. So Jesus has performed all these different miracles and all these things, and yet the Pharisees say, "Give us a sign. Give us a sign so that we can believe." So I think maybe his impatience might have been, I've been here. I've been doing all this stuff. I've been performing miracles. There have been signs and wonders all along the way. But I think it's more than that. Right after this passage, Jesus asks his disciples this kind of rapid fire series of questions when they complained about not having enough bread. And he said, "Why are you talking about the fact that you don't have any bread? Don't you grasp what has happened? Don't you understand? Are your hearts so resistant for what God is doing? Don't you have eyes? Why can't you see? Don't you have ears? Why can't you hear? Don't you remember when I broke 5 loaves of bread for those 5,000 people? How many baskets full of leftovers did you gather?" And they answered, 12. "And when I broke those 7 loaves of bread for those 4,000 people, how many baskets of leftovers did you gather?" And they answered, 7. And Jesus said, "And you still don't understand?" So these questions and Jesus' impatience with the Pharisees and the disciples alike gives me pause. Why is Jesus frustrated? Why doesn't he just say, "Signs? I've shown you signs. Come on, pay attention." For me, during this Lenten time in the wilderness alongside Jesus, my question is, so what is it Jesus wants me to pay attention to? If it's not the signs and the wonders, what is it that Jesus wants me to understand? He seems to be saying that the miracles aren't the point. The material things aren't the point. That fame and followers aren't the point. So what does that leave? Well, it leaves God's love. And God's love is about connection and openness and healing and forgiveness and sharing our resources and experiencing our understanding of who is included in that love. The signs and the wonders, they're a byproduct of love, radical, transformative love. They are not the reason to believe. They're not the reason to love. The love comes first, always first. Will you pray with me? God, help me to let go of my need for signs and proof, my desire for validation, my attachment to visible and tangible results. Open my heart this season to you, to your love, to the ways that your love transforms me and connects me to all of your creation. Amen. Take care. I'm glad to be with you this season.